My brother secretly had a crush on my wife and even brought my ex to our wedding to ruin it. So I told his pregnant girlfriend he was cheating on her. Please be patient, as this will be a lengthy read. My younger brother is Ben, a false name. He is 25 years old, and I am 27. As siblings, Ben and I have always been close, and I assumed our connection was quite typical. Perhaps I didn't realize what was happening, or perhaps he was really skilled at concealing his actual feelings. My now wife, Chloe, who is 24, and my ex-girlfriend, Megan, who is 27, are also included in this story. Chloe, Ben, and I all attended the same school. I never really interacted with Chloe because I was a few years older than them. I was acquainted with Ben and all of his pals, and we occasionally played together, but that was our only connection because our interests were so dissimilar. Ben and I began to drift apart by the time I was in my junior year. I didn't really push for a tight relationship with him because I assumed this was a normal part of growing up. We continued to get out from time to time, but we didn't exchange secrets. Boys don't really do that, so I wasn't too bothered by it either. The only significant aspect of this narrative is that Ben was hanging out with a few of his friends and their girlfriends, including Chloe, just before I left for college. I want to clarify that nothing improper occurred before anyone calls me a weirdo or groomer for pursuing a 15-year-old. One of the children I met there inquired about my college location. Chloe added that it was her ideal university when I told them, and I just said that she was more than welcome to ask for my assistance when she applied. That was it. She was the only person I interacted with at school after that. I left for college and completely forgot about that little encounter because it didn't matter. I met Megan in college. We clicked right away when we were classmates. I finally asked her out in my third year of college, though it took some time. We began dating after she said yes. Everything was wonderful in the beginning of the relationship. I felt like I truly understood her because we were going through comparable struggles and wished to live similar lives with one another. After graduating from college, I was able to secure a lucrative position, but Megan was not as fortunate. We agreed to live together in order to save money, and I was more than happy to assist her. She was applying for jobs all over the place, but for some reason, she was never hired, even after she reached the interview stage. Even though I made enough money to support the two of us, it was still hard to save much because I was still in the early stages of my work, and I knew this was having a negative psychological impact on her. For more than a year, she continued to apply to various locations without success. She was devastated, and I did my best to be there for her. But shortly after, she realized that we could make ends meet with just my paycheck, so she gave up completely. At first, I welcomed the shift because I assumed she was simply worn out from applying and being turned down, and that it was having a negative psychological impact on her. She followed my advice to take some time off and engage in enjoyable activities. For 3 or 4 months, this continued. She stopped complaining as much, became happier, experienced less stress, and her mental health significantly improved. I felt pleased for her. In the next few weeks, I hoped to gently encourage her to resume her job search. When I brought up the subject a month later, she reacted negatively, claiming that the thought of going through that terrifying experience once more made her cry. She said she would begin applying when she was ready and asked me not to bring it up again. I accepted since I believed her and didn't want to put undue pressure on her or come out as unsupportive. I was promoted and given a sizable raise 2 years after I started working. Now that I could at last start saving and doing the things I loved, I was ecstatic. I had had to put a lot of my aspirations on hold for the past 2 years in order to provide for 2 people with my paycheck. Naturally, Megan's mental health issues and my personal interests took a back seat. Now that I had some money to spend on fun, I felt relaxed. However, Megan began pleading with me to assist in paying for her niece's schooling as soon as she learned that I had been given a raise. Megan's brother was impoverished and could only work for a few months at a time. He had gotten a lady pregnant and was clueless about how to raise a child, particularly after the woman died and left no family behind. Megan's brother, who was completely unprepared to care for another human being, took the infant. Megan pleaded with me, saying that even though she had only met her niece twice, she loved her and would never be able to forgive herself if she couldn't assist her. All of this was getting to be too much for me, so I told her I would give it some thought and ended the conversation. There was a part of me that honestly considered giving her the money, but there was also a nastier part of me that believed it was her niece and that she could get up and get work to support her. That night, I drank a lot, and as I continued to drink, All the logic and reason I had suppressed came flooding back. Since I was in love with Megan, I never really gave the suspicion that she was attempting to take advantage of me any thought. I was unable to get rid of those emotions, though. I was pleased to support her throughout her life, but it seemed excessive to ask me to support her niece as soon as I received a raise, especially at the expense of my own desires. Since I would be stuck in this situation for the rest of my life if I started supporting the niece now, I knew it was time to stand up for myself. I sat Megan down the following day and informed her that regardless of how regrettable the situation, I would not be providing financial support for her niece. Additionally, I told her that she was free to take a job and assist the poor child if she felt sorry for her. I didn't care what she did with the money. I refused to listen to her attempt to butt in, claiming that I was being unkind and that a poor youngster needed my assistance. I also informed her that the distribution of domestic duties would shift if she failed to find employment. If she wasn't making a financial contribution, I expected her to do 80% of the tasks because we didn't have any children or pets. I informed her that I wanted a vacation after working tirelessly for the past 2 years to support her while balancing work and home. She needed to help relieve some of my burden if she wasn't prepared to aid me financially so that I could have more money for myself. It would be an understatement to say that she began to yell. It was a miracle I didn't leave the conversation with my ears bleeding because I don't think I've ever had the bad experience of listening to such high decibels before. She called me every possible epithet during her lengthy tirade, including misogynistic, manipulative, gaslighting, and financially abusive. I simply needed a break, though. If she couldn't do this for me, why were we even partners? The altercation continued for a while. She probably thought that because I've never been confrontational, I would give in. I didn't, which surprised her. For several more days, we were at a standstill. She cut me off once more when I attempted to bring up the subject. I realized we were done at that point. I was merely supporting her life and receiving nothing in return. Therefore, there was no future for me in this relationship. It was a messy split because she was unemployed. She had nowhere to go. I informed her that I was done with her and that she should have her problems straightened out by then, but I was willing to give her some money to help her get by for a month or two. She broke down in tears, accusing me of faking and performing the whole drama act. I informed her that my decision was final and that I was no longer interested in this relationship. It could not be saved, and all the solutions she was now offering ought to have been presented while we were still together, not as a last resort. The split was nonetheless unpleasant, even though I had set her up for a few months. I didn't understand how much dead weight I'd been carrying until she walked out. I could spend so much time and effort on myself. I resumed interests I had given up while in school. These pastimes allowed me to get back in touch with Chloe. Chloe chose to pursue painting as a career despite not attending my college. Even though it was somewhat of a covert pastime because it wasn't deemed masculine enough, I had always loved doodling as a child. I went since I was curious about the art show in my city. I discovered Chloe there. We started chatting after she displayed a piece in the exhibition. I had broken up with Megan a few months prior to this. When I asked Chloe how things were going, we struck up a conversation that we both found enjoyable. We agreed to get together once more, and she said she would notify me of any upcoming art events in the area. She did. After we reconnected, we gradually began to fall in love. I was already deeply in love with her when I finally asked her out a year later. When I tried to ask Ben about her, he told me that they hadn't spoken since she broke up with the guy from his school friend group. I won't go into all the specifics of my relationship with Chloe because they aren't pertinent to this tale, but know that we have always been friendly and equal partners, and I knew she was the person I wanted to marry from a young age. Megan made a few attempts to contact me during this time, but I always turned her down. Chloe knew this every time it occurred, and she was confident enough to trust me. A year into our relationship, Chloe and I were already considering marriage when I took her to supper with my family. That has never been a problem because my parents don't meddle in their children's private matters. Chloe and my family got along well, and the supper was enjoyable. We were all discussing how amusing it was that life operates in weird ways and how my run-in with Chloe again was entirely coincidental. At that point, Ben joked that he was shocked that his high school infatuation would end up becoming his sister-in-law. All those in attendance interpreted it as a lighthearted joke at the moment. Chloe even claimed that the only person in their group who was even remotely engaging to converse with was Ben. I didn't give Ben's remark any thought, and the dinner was enjoyable. He also appeared to be really pleased with me. Even though he had been in several relationships, I had no idea that he had been harboring affections for Chloe all these years. The problems began when the wedding was being planned. At the time, I didn't see it coming since I never imagined my own brother would do something like this. At first, it was minor infractions that might be explained by his general forgetfulness, such as failing to check in with the caterer or misjudging the time of the dress appointment. I now see that he purposefully caused a wedge between Chloe and me in order to somehow call off the wedding. It didn't work. Even though we were both under a lot of stress, we were too resilient to be shaken by a few missed appointments. If anything, Chloe's snippy and short fuse with Ben simply made him feel worse. The wedding day was the last straw. Megan and I hadn't communicated all this time. To be honest, I had no idea where she was, what she was doing, or how she was doing, and I had no interest in her. I had no idea that Ben had been communicating with her for months before the wedding. If nothing else worked, he intended to get Megan to convince or pressure me into leaving Chloe. He was hoping for some sort of intervention, like drama. Despite not being on the guest list, she arrived as Ben's companion. I was taken aback by this since we expected Ben's girlfriend to be present, and everyone in the family had met her. I had a horrible feeling, but I didn't have time to ask him why Megan was there. Fortunately, Megan had not yet caught Chloe's attention. Just before Chloe was set to go down the aisle, Megan got up and began yelling in front of everyone. She said that she was the love of my life, that she was willing to take me back, and that I didn't have to marry Chloe. There was such a ruckus that Megan began to weep and beat her feet like a spoiled kid. In all honesty, it was pitiful. Taking Ben by the collar, I rushed over to him and yelled at him to get out. He claimed that Chloe and he were destined to be together, that Megan and I were meant to be together, and that he had come to put things right. I was horrified by the ridiculous rubbish he continued to spew. I requested that my pals take him and Megan out of there. Chloe came out at this moment, and I'm not even sure if she understood what was going on, but she strolled calmly over to Megan, blew her a kiss, slapped her in front of everyone, and requested her bridesmaids to start the music. Never in my life have I witnessed anything so legendary. Megan found it really humiliating, and rather than causing a controversy around me, she simply made a show of herself in front of everyone. Given the situation, the remainder of the wedding proceeded as smoothly as possible. I didn't hope for such a dramatic day, but there wasn't much I could do to change the course of events at that point. Immediately following the wedding, I blocked Ben. He had shown me plenty, and I had little interest in hearing his version of events. The fact that Chloe and Ben had never even truly bonded made it all the more reprehensible and nasty. To be honest, he was dangerous to be around and possessed delusions. Above everything, I felt terrible for Sarah, his lover. I called Sarah a few days after the wedding to find out why she didn't go and why Ben didn't invite her as a guest. Before I chose to interfere in their relationship, I needed to know what type of story he had been telling her. She told me bluntly that I didn't have to act like I liked her, and that she would much rather I just be honest with her. I quickly realized that Ben had prevented her from attending the wedding by using either Chloe or me as an excuse. She urged me to stop acting when I questioned her about it, stating that Ben had already informed her that she wasn't invited, which is why he didn't receive a guest spot at the wedding. She claimed that she didn't mind him leaving or that we didn't like her, but she was really offended by the fact that the whole family acted as though they liked her when we actually didn't. I firmly informed her that Ben had deceived her and that none of that was real. I pleaded with her to keep our talk private from Ben and our parents for the next 2 weeks, and that Chloe and I would meet her when we got back from our honeymoon. I had to provide her a picture of the invitation that was sent to Ben, which obviously contained a +1, because she claimed she wouldn't betray Ben on our behalf. I also validated her attendance with Ben by sending her screenshots of our chats. She claimed not to believe us, so I told her that I understood and that we weren't requesting her trust, but rather that she should remain silent until we could meet and address the misunderstanding. She consented, but I wasn't sure if she would follow through on it. I was eager to expose Ben's true nature to Sarah, but I could only hope that everything would go smoothly during my honeymoon. Update 1. I had no idea this story would become so well known. As I mentioned, I went on my honeymoon and didn't care to check Reddit, but my inbox is overflowing with requests for updates. Thankfully, nothing untoward occurred during the actual honeymoon. Ben didn't try to phone me, and he was still blocked. Sarah texted Ben briefly to let him know that she hadn't discussed our chat, and that she wanted to meet as soon as I got back from my honeymoon. A few hours had passed since the meeting. Sarah didn't feel safe visiting our house, so we met at a cafe. At first, she was really protective, and it was obvious from her demeanor and body language that she didn't want to hear what we had to say. However, we thoroughly explained everything to her. She first didn't believe us and called us crazy for making such a false accusation against Ben. I did, however, ask some acquaintances if they had any wedding films while we were on our vacation. Although there wasn't a single video that showed the full experience, other people were filming, so we were able to piece the incident together in general. After showing Sarah those movies, I gave her the rundown on Megan's entire predicament. At that point, she began to trust us. When she inquired about any past interactions between her and Ben, Chloe adamantly denied it. It was difficult for Sarah to accept that Ben would be so naive about everything, particularly if nothing was happening. Chloe claimed to be equally perplexed. She didn't know how or when Ben fell in love with her, and she thought that perhaps he had fallen for her. They had only interacted maybe 10 or 12 times at most. We informed Sarah that we believed it was our responsibility to notify her of the situation and that she might use the information however she saw fit. Additionally, we informed her that we had blocked Ben and would no longer be communicating with him, and we didn't anticipate this changing in the near future. She acknowledged that she could see our point of view, but she also stated that she wanted to speak with Ben right away. We made an effort to talk her out of it, but she felt that she owed it to herself to know if staying with Ben was wise, especially since she was pregnant. Chloe and I both congratulated her on her pregnancy and assured her that we would always be there for her. Sarah stated that although she was certain she wanted to move forward with the confrontation, she would have to reveal that we had contacted her and told her everything. Chloe and I understood that supporting Sarah was the correct thing to do, even though it wasn't ideal, because we both wanted to avoid getting involved in Ben's turmoil. We assured her that she had our undivided attention and that we would stop at nothing to support her. I am aware that this is not the end, but that was the only thing that transpired during the meeting. For Ben, everything is about to explode, and he has no idea what's going to happen. Update 2. Although I am aware that this update will be released shortly, this situation has gotten out of hand. I hate accidentally starting this storm, and Ben is going to take a serious hit. Sarah wasted no time in getting right to the point after speaking with us. She asked Ben if he was at work when she called him. After he said yes, she stormed over to his office at that precise moment and confronted him. It became ugly. She was given permission to enter because she had told them she was dropping off some files for him. She walked right into his office and asked if he had done the things we had told her about. When Ben tried to explain that it wasn't the right place to talk and that they would talk about it when he got home, Sarah wouldn't have it. There was a good deal of shouting going on, so HR had to be summoned up to his floor. This is where Ben's situation becomes even better or worse. When the HR assistant asked Sarah who she was and why she was making such a fuss, Sarah identified herself as Ben's girlfriend and revealed that she was pregnant. She was shocked when Ben denied it. He categorically denied dating her. More shouting followed, and Sarah was finally led away. That day, a storm awaited Ben as he returned home. I don't know the specifics, but they got into a huge fight. I do know that it was discovered that Ben had been having an affair for a considerable amount of time, and that the lady he was having an affair with was the HR assistant who had stepped in. Let's call her Olivia. Ben is therefore doomed. Sarah is a no-nonsense woman who doesn't put up with disrespect. Therefore, I'm positive that she will leave him. It is nearly impossible for her to forgive Ben and condone cheating. Regarding his affair partner, Ben's workplace has an extremely stringent no-dating policy. Employees are forced to sign contracts and other documents. After the altercation and Sarah's tirade at work, his affair partner, Olivia, found out that Ben had been pretending to be a single man and that he had a pregnant girlfriend. When Olivia discovered that Ben had been lying to her the entire time and that she was the other lady, she was horrified. Word spread quickly, and Ben is currently facing criticism at work for his actions. Ben is in a lot of trouble because Olivia has ties to the company's executives, which makes things worse for him. He will undoubtedly lose Sarah, and he may lose his job. Ben has nowhere to go because Sarah has also evicted him from the house, which turns out to have been Sarah's grandmother's. In the middle of the night, Ben came to see us and gave me an explanation of everything. For some reason, I let him in. Never in my life have I witnessed him so enraged. He would not stop yelling that Chloe would one day leave me for him, that I had destroyed his life, and that I never deserved someone like her. I was genuinely concerned for his mental health because of how insane he sounded. He requires assistance, possibly from a psychiatrist or a therapist. Ben also became aggressive with me. I'm aware that I'll be called a fool for not calling the police on him, But ultimately, he's my brother, and I didn't want to add to his troubles. More than anything, I felt sorry for him. It's incomprehensible how one foolish choice can ruin someone's life. He had it all: a fantastic profession, a devoted and caring fiancé, and now a baby on the way. But he blew it all away with a series of foolish choices while living in a bubble of bizarre illusions. Right now, I simply feel bad for him. Update 3. Ben was laid off. Even while this is not shocking, I still feel horrible. Violet no longer wants to interact with him after their breakup. Sarah has the full support of Chloe, me, and my parents. Ben now believes that because of a harmless prank, I have alienated the entire family. Yes, he is now claiming that his pledge of unwavering love was a hoax. He has been totally shunned by the family, and no one is believing this new story of his. This drama has been annoying me, and I'm not sure where he's residing at the moment. As a recent husband, I can't keep rushing around cleaning up Ben's mess. I'm happy that I brought Sarah into this in the first place, but I never imagined things would get so out of control. I don't see how Ben can get over this. It's a complete mess. I don't blame my parents for being upset with him because he threw everything away and was essentially a jerk. I don't know how he came to be this way. We weren't brought up this way. This will be my final update, though. Chloe and I have come to the conclusion that we must move on from this. Sarah and our niece or nephew will always have a home with us, and we will support them in any manner they require. Other than that, we're done though. I appreciate all of the advice, Reddit. I never imagined that I would have my own dysfunctional story to tell, but that is what it is.